Hey, good morning. We're going to try this again. We just were live on YouTube for a second. I don't know if anybody got on yet, but we had some technical difficulties with Substack. So hopefully this is going out. I'm going to keep checking. But hey, welcome to Grounded with Jon Tester and Maritza Giorgio. How you
Well,
doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I know you really care, but can you tell me what you mean by you don't know what else is going out on? Is going out on YouTube and Substack, anything else?
That's what we go live on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So
s-
you can you get the comments off of YouTube and Substack simultaneously? Because I
yeah.
think
So
I get comment.
you,
It's only under StreamYard.
those are our YouTube comments. And then the comments I'm reading off of Substack.
Really?
Yeah.
So those are not original thoughts by you. There's somebody else putting those thoughts out, right?
Well, when I say this person in the chat, I'm not just making that up, although I could.
You could. You could.
You should just start throwing that out. "Hey, Bob in the chat wants to know."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's
Well,
pretty funny.
how about a chat wants to know why you're supporting Bullock and not Bodner, which, by the way, is bullshit on the internet, and some clown put it up. I still support Bodner. I think he's the best. I think he's got the greatest resume of any human being I've ever seen. Do I need to go on? I'm in Montana.
Wow. Did you wanna get that you wanted to get that off your chest
I
this
do
morning,
want to
huh?
get that out there because there's a lot of violence, and a fair number of them actually like the Republican who's running as a Democrat in this U.S. Senate race. So, other than that, I got nothing.
Okay, well, I'm sure that won't be controversial at all. Hey, we want to say happy Saturday to you. We recorded this conversation with Senator Wyden of Oregon yesterday, and so we're going to play that for you here in just a minute. We do have some headlines, but I was going to say that I was out with Katie Fang last night. I'm in DC. I spent the night with Katie and, well, like out to dinner. We went shopping and we had such a great time. And she's just doing such magnificent work filing this lawsuit against the DOJ and really pushing for transparency in this whole Epstein thing that we're going to talk about with Senator Wyden. And yeah, it was. I'm so glad she's doing that.
So I just want to say that I had a chance to talk with Katie when you met up with her before you went into you're going to say a clothing store, but a bar, and and we're going to be talking to Wyden about a report he's been working on for 4 or 5 years. His staff, I should say, but his oversight. And Katie Fang said, "Yeah, I read the report. I mean, who reads all these reports? I mean, I served in the state legislature with a guy by the name of John Cobb, who was the finest legislator I ever served with." And Cobb used to read everything. I mean, he used to come in on the floor of the Senate and say, "Hey, look, that shouldn't be a who, it should be a he," and change words in bills that were like 400 pages long. And he would change one word in it because he read it. And Katie Fang does the same thing. She takes these reports that most people read the first line in a paragraph and say, enough of that crap. She reads the whole thing.
Yeah,
Amazing. She's a good attorney.
she is a good attorney. She's wicked smart, and she's thorough, and she wants to be prepared because I don't. That's how you should go about life. Well, let me tell you, that report 6 to 7 pages. It's not a 3 page report.
Yeah.
Uh, so we're gonna get to that in a moment. But yeah, I and then I will see her again today, and Ellie Leonard and Glenn Kirshner and a whole slew of people that we know and love on this show. So it's gonna be a good day. Let's do some headlines, should we? Shall we?
I think we should. Okay.
Okay.
Did anything happen?
Nothing. No, I mean, there's always something happening in this world, right? There's a new exclusive this morning. The Washington Post. I'll put it up here. So the Washington Post is reporting that the U.S. Navy is weighing a major warship redesign because the president wants the aircraft carriers to look more like the ones from World War II. According to their sources, this would require significant time and money. We're talking billions of dollars. This comes after the president directed the Navy to go back to old steam powered catapults on any future carriers. These carriers are in production right now, and sources in the article say some of these changes they want to make affect buoyancy and buoyancy.
Buoyancy.
Buoyancy. My brain is not fully caught up. I haven't had coffee yet. Buoyancy is the word I was looking for. Um, and it would also impact the weight of the aircraft carriers and all of these things, not to mention costing a whole lot of money.
And its effectiveness. I'm telling you, this is bad news. You're letting people who have problems with alcohol and people who never served in the military making critical decisions. It's like giving F-35s to Turkey. Bad idea. It's like giving nuclear technology to Saudi Arabia. Bad idea. This is another bad idea that costs taxpayers dollars, adds more money to the debt, and makes us less lethal. It is just a bad idea. And this is what the people put in the White House, a bad idea. We've seen all these ideas that the president's put forth over the last year and a half. Tell me one that's worked out. Tell me one. Oh, Nicaragua. Yeah, they went and got the leader. What have they done with him? What have they
No,
done?
no, no. Venezuela. Venezuela.
Right, Venezuela. I'll just
That's okay. I said buoyancy.
bad as you mispronounce buoyancy. God damn it! I tell you, Venezuela. Okay, was it successful? Okay, but on what kind of terms? What's the long term plan there? What's happened? What's going to happen to the people of Venezuela? What's going to happen to their government? Is it going to be better long term, or is it going to be worse? Or are oil companies just going to make a lot of money, and the Trump regime going to make a bunch of money? This is this redesign on these ships is just flat stupid. Let the pros do what the pros do, and you'll be in better shape. That's it. That's all I got to say.
Well, and I mean, you know, I understand nostalgia for the old days. I do. I understand that. I'm a Disney adult. Maybe the technology is just a little better now. Maybe we've learned some things.
Marisa, this proves what I've said for a while. This guy's locked in the 1950s. 1950s on all fronts.
Okay, so he was asked about, we talked about this yesterday on our show. These sailors who are just reporting really awful conditions. They have been deployed for months. They're months past what their deployment was supposed to be. We've had people try to go overboard. The families are concerned. And so the president was asked about this yesterday about these sailors on the USS Abraham Lincoln. Let me play what he said. U.S. concerned about the conditions on board the USS.
Well, no, that ship is moving. No, they're not. That ship is moving right now, or very shortly, and it's being replaced with another very similar ship. No, no, no. Not nearly long enough. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, so first he says, no, they're not. When the reporter, I think it was Julie Sturgeon from NBC, asked, "Are you concerned? Are the family members are concerned?" And he says, "No, they're not." That's the first part of that. And then she asks, "Are you concerned this has gone too long?" And he says, "It hasn't gone on long enough."
Yeah, my response is that I'm sure that the president has been on an aircraft carrier, but I bet he hasn't been on it a day. I bet he hasn't been on it a week. I bet he hasn't been on it a month. So for him to say, 7, 8 months is not long enough for somebody who's never had that experience, and doesn't have people around him, by the way, that are giving him good information. It kind of makes perfect sense. And it also shows his lack of respect for the fighting men and women who serve in our armed forces.
And the families, for him to sit up there and say, "No, they're not," when the reporter says the family members are concerned about their loved ones,
So
it's just so flippant.
jumping off of ships, no big deal. Hell, people go swimming all the time, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're not worried. Okay, my last headline is also related to Iran. There's a lot of Iran news today, but NBC has a new report this morning, and it says it's talking about these anti-U.S. billboards that are going up across Iran. A lot of propaganda going up against the United States and Iran. They're pretty violent images. One shows the White House on fire. One shows a deceased President Trump in a casket. One said, "Revenge is inevitable." And for me, this is not necessarily a surprise. We have seen this play out over decades when we go into a country, when the United States goes into a country, and we see new extremism born out of that. And that was the first thought I had when I heard about our attack, seemingly inadvertent attack on the girls' school. And how do you go talk to those parents and say, "Oh no, the U.S. They're really good at heart," when they just killed your kid? I don't know. That's been my concern from the beginning. Is what new cells come out of this?
Fair concern. I will tell you my perspective on Iran is Iran's been a bad actor my entire adult life. And the fact is that they've done a lot of bad things in the world, particularly in the Middle East. But what the president's done with his war of choice with Iran has elevated their ability to raise hell and raise havoc within the Middle East and in the world. This administration is going to be dealing with Iran till the very end. And the world and the United States is going to be dealing with Iran forever because he has made them into a formidable foe now. And the kind of terrorist activities that have always come out of Iran probably are going to increase, and it's going to put Americans and other people around the world at risk. And I just think that it's absolutely incredible that the president and the people around him, particularly Hegseth, thought this was a good idea. When every president for the last 47 years, and take a look at what happened to Carter. I mean, it was a quagmire. It's a quagmire now, and it's going to be a quagmire this entire presidency, and maybe a quagmire for the rest for the rest of the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it's hard to see when you listen to the experts and the analysts and people who know what they're talking about on this. It's hard to see where the off ramp is, and where anybody comes out ahead on this, except for Iran is seemingly coming out ahead on this. I mean, they have more control than they did when this started, especially when you talk about the Strait of Hormuz. So we will continue to follow this. It is Saturday. We will see what transpires. We have a live show for you on Monday with Sharon McMahon, America's government teacher. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, she's cool. We like to hear about government, and particularly from America's government teacher.
That's right. So we will play our interview now with Senator Wyden. Anything else I'm missing, Senator?
Christian, there's a question, a comment that I've got to comment on, and the word is on Cami Clark from Anthropic seeking out funding from Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know anything about that. And it says, do you know anything about that since you're on the board? I'm on the advisory board. I'm not on the board of directors, to be clear. It's a whole different ballgame. I advise them on things like if they're going to, you know, do surveillance on American citizens. That's not a good idea. And it's not a good idea. And they don't do that. But, I'll ask a few questions about Cami Clark. It's not my role on the advisory board, but anything dealing with Epstein gets my antennas up. Bad man, bad actor, a bunch of bad people that support him. I'm making sure Anthropic isn't supporting this clown.
Yeah,
To
I
the
appreciate that.
best of my
And
ability.
I appreciate you clarifying the difference between the advisory board and the board of directors. I don't think
Well,
people quite understand it.
once again, Marisa Giorgio, there are people out there that are saying all sorts of things and they don't know shit about nothing, but they continue to do it. I'm not saying this woman is saying that or man, whoever, because you can't tell by the title, which is one of the problems with the internet. Nobody gets affiliated
Anonymity. Yeah.
with anonymity. But, it might be entire bullshit. It might not be. I'll ask a few questions. We'll find out.
All right. Well, with that, we are going to play our conversation with Senator Wyden, and we will see you back here on Monday. I hope you enjoy this conversation, folks. Have a good weekend. Stay safe. So we want to welcome to Grounded Senator Ron Wyden from the great state of Oregon, who's now in his fifth term in the U.S. Senate, also the top Democrat on the Senate Finance Committee, and as I just learned, used to be neighbors with the Jon Tester.
The Jon Tester.
Yeah, indeed. The neighborhood went up in value when Wyden moved in.
We got some stories. We're ready to tell that story when it's story time.
All right.
Oh.
And then I moved out, and then the value went up even more. So shit, it's just a great deal.
We didn't have the cigars in the neighborhood. That was the highlight.
It's true. I couldn't keep the mosquitoes down. I could keep the mosquitoes down when I was back there puffing away. But hey, man, it's good to see you. Good to have you on the show.
You too. I've been looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun. Let's talk about fun.
Well, unfortunately, there's some fun, but we're probably going to talk about shit that probably matters.
Yes, serious first.
We'll do serious first. All right, Senator. So the reason I even like the very first topic that I want to get to is the reason I sent Senator Tester your name last week and said we have to get him on because your office just released this report based on a review of Treasury reports, bank records, legal filings, and you conducted this investigation for 4 years and found that the biggest Wall Street banks looked the other way during the time Jeffrey Epstein ran this whole sex trafficking ring. And you say they knew he was dirty and they violated the law and didn't notify anyone for years. So help us unpack this. Like, how did this start in your office? And help us unpack what happened after that.
It started in our office because we believe that if you're really trying to root out corruption and take on bad guys, you got to follow the money. I mean, if you look at the history in our country, that's how we caught Al Capone. That's how we catch bad guys. And we learned that a couple of billionaires were making deals with Epstein, giving him hundreds of millions of dollars for sort of fake kind of services and the like. And we said, we're going to follow that money. And we went to Florida and we went to New York and the like. And we saw, for example, things like JP Morgan, thousands and thousands of wire transfers. And these banks just did nothing. They knew he was dirty. They had responsibilities under the law to report it, and they took a pass.
So, Ron, how long did this go on the whole time that he was doing this stuff, or was it towards the end of his life, or when was this? Was this going on the whole time?
Years and years, John. He was basically a substitute school teacher, but he was clever and he was devious and he played on people's emotions. These billionaires, he talked them up about great things, parties, all kinds of social sorts of things. And it just went on year after year. And the banks had important people in high positions who basically also looked the other way. So it wasn't just, the people at the very top, but the people close to the top. And there was a lot of money for them to make.
So this is the other. And by the way, the other reason is that Wyden happens to be the top Democrat in the Finance Committee, which is probably the most powerful committee in the United States Senate. So we appreciate you using that position. Was it not that this matters, but was it your own personal office staff or committee staff or a combination?
A little of both, but we had this rule. I mean, that's how we caught Swiss bankers. That's how we went after people in healthcare that were playing devious. You have to really say there's certain kind of approaches that make a big difference. The Senate doesn't do enough to follow the money. That's how we caught these Wall Street bankers, and we're going to stay at it, by the way. In other words, a mention was made of, how'd you get into it? We've talked a little about that, but when we take the Senate back, if I have the chance to be the chairman again, we're going to send out some subpoenas, and there are a bunch of Republicans who already ducked those subpoenas, and they'll be getting one.
Yeah, it's important everybody's held accountable. I mean, this administration talks about being transparent and accountable, but they're anything but. So let me ask you this, and then Maritza will ask you the tough questions. But did you take a look at the regulators at all, and why wasn't this brought up? I mean, look, your staff found it. You got good staff, and they're not a bunch of dummies. They're good quality people. But we've got a bunch of really good regulators. Did the regulators know about this and look the other way too?
No question about it, John, and particularly at the Treasury Department. I brought it to Scott Bessent repeatedly. They had these things called SARs, suspicious activity reports. We had trouble getting them out of Biden, but we got a little bit. They made us come down to the office. But Bessent just stonewalled from A to Z. And when there's the Federal Reserve and DOJ, of course, Bondi took a pass on that. She pretended that she was going to do something. And then suddenly these documents that were supposed to be on her desk disappeared. So getting this question of the financial underpinnings of how this went on is absolutely key. And I'm staying with it until we have some accountability. And what we did is we made it clear that things like the approach required by law is you've got to do it in a timely way. What these banks did is they just waited for years and years and then did it retroactively when the consequences weren't much.
That's the question. I have two strings to pull on there, but that's the question is, I mean, you've said that Epstein would not have gotten away with this for so long if the banks had done their job. So do you worry that there are other situations happening right now similarly, that these financial institutions are looking the other way currently on other horrific crimes?
Well, they're talking about how they're going to avoid prosecution now, but there's no question that our motivation was when you see young women and girls and families broken up this way, hurt this way, people committing suicide, the kinds of things that we've been hearing about. I said what I want to do, and John talked about kind of how we're supposed to work. I said, I'm going to find ways to hold people accountable here so it doesn't happen again.
Okay, so you said when the Democrats take the Senate back, you're going to issue subpoenas, but I mean, is there really no Republican buy-in now to do that? There's no, like, the it's just a one-sided thing right now to issue subpoenas the Republicans don't want to play?
Yep. And in fact, in our case, we had a couple on the finance committee whose staffs knew about the work with the Biden people. We asked them to join with us in a subpoena and they wouldn't do it. So you bet they have been ducking on Capitol Hill too.
Yeah, it should not be a partisan issue.
One of them, I'll tell you, because John knows her, is Senator Blackburn. Senator Blackburn repeatedly gave speeches about how important it was to go after the people who were involved in Epstein and hold people accountable. We asked her to join us subpoena and she wouldn't do it.
That's
Okay.
unfortunate. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, and then I've got one.
No, go ahead, Senator.
Well, I get these clips from Maritza and that inform me what's going on. And one of these clips said, back in March, you got interviewed by 60 Minutes on this very report. Did they ever air it?
Nope. And clearly that's pretty suspicious too. In fact, John, there is this kind of the Hall of Fame kind of walk on 60 Minutes when you do the show, and then you walk you down the corridor and you get to wave to your friends and everybody go, oh, 60 Minutes show. They even took me on the Walk of Fame. So I thought it was a done deal, but we went through that. The reporter got fired. The story seems to be disappearing. And again, it just looks to me like they're protecting their buddies in the administration.
Who did the interview? Do you remember?
Alfonsi.
Oh, Sharon, yeah, she's fabulous. I mean, that's the thing.
She's terrific, and nobody knows why she got fired up there.
The thing for me is,
Might have been because of the story they did on you on this report.
Hope that wasn't what wrecked her career there. She was a good reporter, and she had done her homework. She asked about things also in the Virgin Islands where there was a pattern of questionable activity involving Epstein. So she had done her homework. We were there to tell a story. When she asked me what was different about our story, I said, nobody else. There has not been one follow the money account of Epstein other than ours. And she said, that's what I want to cover.
do you remember any tidbits of that interview that you want out there that's not out there? Is everything since been publicly disclosed, or is there more to that story that we need to know about?
Well, what a good reporter does, and I'm a journalist kid. My dad was a journalist, puts it all together into a narrative. In other words, We wrote a report. That was a narrative from a legislator's standpoint, but I think that it would have been an important contribution. And certainly our report didn't do a lot in terms of the Virgin Islands. She had spent the time there, and we spent part of the interview getting into that and how it played a role here.
Yeah, absolutely. The storytelling angle and making it personal and personalizing it, and that's what makes people care about this stuff. So I just do you expect any of these banks to face actual consequences, Senator?
We're going to stay at it until they do. And a lot of the employees who were involved were high ranking. Some of them are still there. Some of the people who are high ranking and were involved in questionable activity get big bonuses to this day. To this day. So you bet we're staying with it. And, when you have a new administration, you can hold people accountable then again.
Yeah. So, and we look forward to that time. But I also was going to say you, you got a situation where I think there's a concerted effort by this administration to make people lose faith in government, so that they don't believe government is worthwhile and can do things. It started out with Doge, and it's continued throughout. If you just look at what's going on, it's about making it so government's inefficient. But this Epstein thing went on for a long time, and the fact that we had regulators with different administrations, this is why people believe that both Democrats and Republicans aren't accountable for corruption, and that's why we appreciate what you're doing, Ron. But we had multiple administrations while this was going on, and the regulators never ever raised hell about it. I mean, this was going on while I was in the Senate. We'd have regulators in front. I was on the banking committee, in front of the banking committee all the time. They had plenty of chances to talk about any of this crap that was going on, and I guarantee it would have got the attention of the people on my side of the roster, but they never did.
And we're going to make sure that we take new precautions. We're talking about future responsibility are on individuals at these banks and the banks as institutions for penalties if they engage in the kind of activity again that we're talking about. And I started this with Democrats. I wanted to continue it with Republicans. I talked again and again about how the Biden people were useful, but not very particularly useful, because they wanted to make sure that they weren't putting out stories. And I think that was unfortunate.
Yeah, I think it's really goes counter to good government. That's for damn sure, and that's the least of the problems. And you already have talked about what's happened to the lives of young girls, kids, and families. It's very unacceptable.
And the requirements in terms of follow-up are almost non-existent. We're talking, for example, about attestation, which is basically putting your name on something. And these guys didn't want to, do that. And that's why some of the quotes that we put into the report really tell a narrative that 60 Minutes doesn't have.
I also wanted to ask you about the story that came out, I think, a day before your report came out, and it was that Capital One reported closing hundreds of Trump bank accounts in 2021 for anti-money laundering reasons. So, I mean, we're just hearing about this now too. It doesn't inspire a lot of confidence, Senator, in what the banks are doing, that we didn't hear about this back in 2021. And I'm also like, if either of you can explain to a layman like me why anyone needs 385 bank accounts, I would love to know that too.
Well, and there's a Trump connection there too. Is Blanche seems to have been involved in some money laundering activity on the law enforcement side, and he knew about what Epstein was up to. There's a document that goes into the details of what Epstein was doing, and at the top of the document it says unclassified, and I can't get that from Blanche. Now, I can't get it from now. He will not give it to me. It says unclassified. It goes into money laundering. It's clearly relevant in the question that you were asking about. Currently, Blanche will not give us that document, and it says unclassified on it.
That's crazy. No Republicans will help you get that document.
We tried to get it, and they all kind of looked the other way too.
I just is there
Getting some of the information on the floor, they said, "Oh, it had already gotten out," and I said, "That's not true."
Is there any way that could be tied to the Epstein Files Transparency Act?
No question about it. I think the plan from the very beginning was to do as little as possible, not to get the information out, not to be quick in terms of the redactions, because that was something that could be used for stalling. And I don't think there's any question between the fact that the act and justice and the slowdown at Treasury are connected.
I think we need to get our friend Katie Fang on this and make sure that that's included in this lawsuit to release all of the documents they haven't released.
Put me down as available to talk. Our investigators will be there.
All right.
Yeah.
Senator, before we have a little bit of fun, I do want to ask you, you've been on a reimagining. Oh, go ahead, Senator Tester. Yes.
I want to switch gears a little bit, and you're going to go
Yeah.
there, but I want to go there first.
Go for it.
Healthcare. The Finance Committee has incredible oversight over the healthcare. You were there when Obamacare, the Affordable Health Care Act, was passed. You're there now while that whole thing is being undermined, and hospitals around the country, big and small, are being put in incredible stressful financial situations. Critical access hospitals in rural America are going to be forced to close. Some of them already have. So let's just dream for a minute. Let's just assume that the Democrats take the House and the Senate. You're chairman of the Finance Committee. What are you going to do about healthcare?
Well, we're going to take on the insurance companies because clearly they're advancing, profits and business as usual. We're going to take on the pharmaceutical, companies. We're looking at the first ever long-term care service. Right now, a lot of what goes on is in nursing homes. More of those people can stay at home, so we're working on that. And John, as you know, if a senator goes home and talks about healthcare, and not too many do, they'll hear horror stories from their constituents. I had a big session yesterday. People drowning in deductibles and co-payments, and they can't get appointments. And their relatives call them and say they can't even figure out who to call. So there's a whole lot that needs to be done. But what I'm interested in is making it simpler and making it more affordable.
Okay, it's time, Senator Tester. I'm sorry. This is the pain point of this interview because I am just learning that you two were neighbors. So that means that Senator Wyden has a whole lot of smack to talk about Jon Tester. I'm just sure of it. I'm sure you have some embarrassing stories, Senator Wyden.
Well,
don't tell me about the time I was running naked down the street. Okay, don't tell me.
I don't want to destroy him all in one session, but there was the question of the kind of liquids that were served in the neighborhood because he had two spigots, one going to his house and one going to our house. And his involved beer. And in the Wyden household, there weren't a lot of drinkers, but the 7-year-old Scarlet Willow Wyden, bright red hair, basically thought that this was going to be orange juice and Coca-Cola time at the Testers. And so we had to pull her away and keep her from being the questionable influence of the Testers. Not Shar, not any of the kids, but the main guy was the challenge. And I hope he doesn't have people write about this because I've been trying to hold the story back.
Yeah, I've always had the belief that you can save money if you buy
two spigots, one over here, one over there.
I mean,
that's a real story. Wait, there was a keg with
real story.
Yeah, keg with two.
Real story.
The party more sense to buying bottles of beer. I mean, it's better for the environment. You get a little better feel. The problem is Wyden wouldn't drink any of this, so I have to drink it all.
The parties were legal. It was the influence on the 7-year-old that we had. We said, John, we're trying to keep her wholesome, but we did our best.
That is so funny. Is there a photo of this?
He was a great neighbor. I actually wanted to take him because on a hot night he'd sit out there with a cigar in his shorts.
Yeah, and the neighborhood doesn't stink as much now.
The nice part about DC, you had a cigar, you kept the mosquitoes down, had a little whiskey or beer or wine, whatever it might be.
The other thing that we had to question about, and that was that so many senators wanted beef from the Testers. They all stored it in the airplane, coming back. And I was always kind of curious how that worked because the FAA probably had some questions about how that was managed.
It's true. They did. TSA always.
We had a great time. If you're looking for a neighbor, Jon Tester and Shar are perfect.
Oh, I love that. That sounds like a great time.
Well, he came from a tough neighborhood and then moved next door to me, so anything looked better. Okay.
I'm gonna really embarrass you, JT. Is Senator Wyden the neighbor you stole the Wi-Fi internet from?
Uh-uh.
Different one. That was a different one. Okay.
Looks to me like there are a lot of them with stories out there. We'll have to.
I think so.
It was, and by the way, we didn't steal it. They knew about it. So hey, what can I say?
We always looked the other way when Tester was there. It must have been like the bankers.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
No, 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 no. Come on.
Well, Senator Wyden, thank you for your help and all the work you do for healthcare. I know you've been doing a lot with wildfires and trying to raise attention about shortage on crews and resources. And and this whole story with this Epstein report. Thank you for all the work you're doing to help keep us informed and engaged.
Thanks for being real journalists. So much of what passes for journalism is just kind of fluff and clicks. And this is great to talk about some real issues. JT, you be well.
Ron Wyden, thank you much. Thanks for being on. You take care, be well, and stay healthy. Okay, buddy? We need you.
Take good care. Big thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks, Senator.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a feeling there are a lot more stories about you and Senator Wyden being neighbors than he let on. I think the keg story was just one. I bet there are so many others.
No, no.
Did you walk to work together?
No, we didn't. No, we didn't. Look. I'm. I was the same way in DC. I mean, I got to work early.
What
Sometimes,
time?
sometimes I worked out. Sometimes I just went to the office and worked. But yeah, I usually got there. If I was working out, I got there, tried to get there by 6 a.m. And either way, I would want to be at the office by 7 a.m., whether I worked out or not. So
Would you walk there or would you drive there?
when I lived where Biden is, I was only 2 blocks from Hart. So I
So
would
you
walk.
walked. Did you walk home with him?
No.
I just help me out here. Like I imagine like me and my best friend Kezzy walking home from school.
Yeah, it's not like 2 little kids going to grade school. No. Although
Dang it.
sometimes you wondered. No, I mean, usually when you went home after it was done, usually, I shouldn't say usually, but about half the time you had a vote on the floor of the Senate. And then you either went back to the office and worked, or you went to your hideaway and worked in the Capitol, which was an office in the Capitol, or you walked home. And that's for the people who lived on the hill. Everybody else drove home or took the metro or took a
Yeah.
taxi, whatever. But that was good. But we'd see one another, and at night, I'd usually wrap up the night and have a libation and a stogie. Uh, maybe 2 nights a week, and
At your house or would you go to beach cacao?
backyard. No, backyard of my house. Yeah, bistro cacao. It doesn't have, they don't have a smoking room, but it was in the backyard. Yeah, it was a
But
really
that
nice.
was
That's when we were renting a house, and it was a really nice house. It had a brick fish pond in the back, which was pretty cool.
were there
Yeah.
fish in it?
Yeah, there were until we did something wrong, and then they kind of went away. But yeah,
They just they just disappeared into thin air.
you got no, they died. But you got water that has what do we put in it? Stuff that boils your teeth. What's it called?
Hydrogen peroxide.
Fluoride and what's the other stuff they put in city water?
Chlorine.
Chlorine. And if you're going to dump it in a fish tank, you got to put it in a 5-gallon bucket and let it air out. You just can't dump water in out of a hose because it'll kill the fish. We didn't know that.
Oh man. I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
bummer. Well, I have so many questions for you, like about those days in the Senate. Like I remember when I shadowed you and the other members of the delegation. I mean, those are long, 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 long days. I mean, the one night I remember you had an 11 p.m. news hit. And you didn't get done and leave the office till like 11:30.
No, that's right. No, I mean, they were long days. Now, they were different kind of days than we have on the farm. They were
Right.
less physically strenuous and more mentally strenuous, quite frankly, but days were often 16, 18 hours. I mean, there were more of them than there were 8-hour day, for example, far more. In fact, I don't know that I ever put in an 8-hour day in Washington, D.C.
Wow. I mean, that's the thing, like, it's not a real fun job if you don't wanna be
No,
engaged all day.
I will tell you that it's not near as glorious as people think it is. It's an incredible honor. You get to do incredible work, and you get to work with incredible people, and you get to represent incredible people. But it ain't as glorious as what you think. It's there's a lot of pains in the asses with the job, to be honest with you, and, and for people to set out there and poke holes in public servants, look, they're in the public sphere, they are a target, but there's a lot of people that do it that know better. They just wanna try to make themselves look good at the expense of somebody else, and those are the people I got no time for. Some of 'em are running for office, by the way.
Yeah. Um, do you have any Capitol ghost stories? Do you see anything weird up there?
Yeah, I saw a lot of shit that was weird, but it had nothing to do with ghosts, okay?
Come on, Tester. I bet that place is haunted.
It ain't haunted. No.
I'm gonna do one quick Google search, and I will bet you that there are lots of ghost stories. I'm just gonna say it.
Well,
Just gonna
I
say it.
don't doubt it. There's a lot of I mean, there's some alcohol drank up there. There's probably some drugs that are smoked or taken or whatever you do.
I
That's
mean, ghost stories.
hallucinate all sorts of stuff going on, you know? So, yeah, I bet there's all sorts of stories.
You
Just
don't
like
believe in ghosts?
just no, I actually do believe in ghosts, but I've never seen one. Um,
Okay.
you know, but who cares, man? They're there. They ain't gonna do nothing. They're probably there to try to help you out a little bit. So,
Yeah, but I mean, like, think about the ghosts in that building, like the forefathers. I feel
well,
like I remember I went to the
believe that. I don't believe that there's ghosts you can attribute to certain people.
Oh, yeah, I do.
I think well, I know, but you probably taken a lot of those drugs, and drank a lot of that stuff, happy juice. Yeah.
Here's what I know. The first time I went to the National Archives, I took all these pictures, on a digital camera long before smartphones, and all my pictures were, like, corrupt. All my pictures had orbs, and they were so messed up, all from inside in the documents room, like, where the Constitution is, but outside, they were all fine. Like, same roll. It was weird. I'm just saying it's weird. I get kinda woo-woo like that, so
You think Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton were in there screwing around?
oh, yeah. They're probably I bet, like, they reenact things like, the duel, and don't you think they just, like, have fun? Just mess with tourists all day?
I saw the play Hamilton, and they're probably in the room where it happens all the time.
Absolutely, in the room where it happens. Alright, so we've taken a big detour here, but we wanna say thank you so much. Oh, wait, what's your hat? What is your hat?
Well, a couple days ago was the preseason of
Mm.
football, so I wore a New York Giants hat. I figured it was important that we represent one of the best teams that's ever been in the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Are you just wearing that for Taylor Swift's husband?
Yeah, good enough for me. It's good enough for Taylor Swift's husband. He
Yeah,
doesn't even
it's
Kelsey doesn't even have a name anymore. He's Taylor Swift's husband.
well, welcome to the world of so many women for so many centuries.
Poor guy. Poor guy. I knew that was coming. All right. How's your
Alright,
hat,
hey,
boy?
thank you so much to Senator Ron Wyden from Oregon for joining us to discuss some very important stuff he's doing, his office is doing. We want to say thank you to Pearl Jam for letting us use their music. We want to thank you, everyone in this community with us, for tuning in. We appreciate you. And hey, we're going to chat again Monday live with the Sharon McMahon, America's government teacher. Hope you join us.
Tally ho. Have a good one.